So the Barrie Colts are getting ready to take on the Brantford Bulldogs at the Saddleland Arena for the first time this season, and I figured let's have a familiar face on. We have Reed Duthie, the play-by-play voice of the Bulldogs, and Reed, last year when we chatted, we were talking about how Brantford welcomed the Bulldogs with open arms, and now it seems this season the Bulldogs are welcoming Brantford. We had some beautiful throwback jerseys last weekend. Let's talk a bit about that. Those were beautiful.
Well, taking it back to the days of 1978 to 84, and thanks as always for having me, Mike, as well. It's great to be with you and talking about this initiative. We wanted to do it last year. We just didn't have the time to get the jerseys all set up and ordered in, but we wanted to throw it back to the days of the Brantford Alexanders, the older OHL team in the market that produced for 6 years over 24 players that played at least a game in the National Hockey League. And you run through the list, and Shane Corson, Bob Probert, Alan Bester, Rick Wamsley. We had Dave Robson there. Mike Bullard was there, who scored 50 goals. He was the Lemieux before Lemieux in Pittsburgh. It was an incredible response to those jerseys, and we actually opened them up to be ordered by fans, so you could get them sublimated. The shop was bringing them in, and I think they just about broke BulldogShop.com when those things went up, because in game and the online orders have been spectacular on them. I wouldn't be surprised if they make a reappearance at some point, maybe not this season, but somewhere down the line, because the fan response to them was just incredible, and a really cool initiative to see so many older fans and Alexander's alumni come in and talk about how great it was to see our guys wearing them, plus the Cooperall look with the pants and the socks. I think that one was equipment manager Chris Cook that I got to give credit to on that, because when we decided we were going to throw it back, we went all the way back with that look.
Well, I tuned into the broadcast because I wanted to see the jerseys in action, and that was the first thing that stood out. I'm like, are they really wearing Cooperalls? But you take the look, and okay, it's the shorts and the socks, but still, that was on point.
Well, and that was what we wanted everybody to do. When the Bulldogs skated out, it was like we wanted everybody to have that moment where, are they actually wearing Cooperalls? And somehow the design came off. Like the way that they had the stripe on the pants continue to the sock really came off really well, better than I could have thought it would have. So it really captured that whole look of the late 70s, early 80s in junior hockey.
And I understand there's some alumni that were there on the weekend too, so that must have been a big thrill for them seeing the Alexanders look back.
Well, Dave Robson, who I actually had on for the Remembrance Day broadcast as well, because he just wrote a book about his father's experiences through the Second World War and the Korean War. He was back for the alumni, of course, and he was wearing his old Letterman jacket from the days of the Alexanders, and he couldn't get over how great they looked. He said it looked like we had really gone back in time for a couple of nights. Mike Bullard was the same way. He thought it was hilarious looking back and see, like, did we actually play wearing? Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the alumni thought it was great, which of course, I mean, that brings a smile to all of our faces. The community embraced it. So it really came off excellent the entire retro weekend.
And it's been quite an amazing journey for the Bulldogs. The move last year, there was some uncertainty, some unknown. But now that we know the Bulldogs are going to get a new barn, City Council, of course, voting in favor of that, it really seems as though the Bulldogs are really becoming a part of the city of Brantford.
Well, and that was the idea immediately. And Michael Landlauer said that right from the beginning. We're not just moving to Brantford, even at that time when it looked like it might just be a temporary home. We were going to get right into the community, and that was the foundation jumping in. I'm lucky enough that I get to lead the school visits with the players going around and visiting all sorts of schools in the Brantford community. They're out doing all sorts of visits and car washes, and we had the players over at our team dentist's office for a meet and greet, and they were shooting, I think they were like foam pucks out in the parking lot. Anything that the Bulldogs can do in the community to get out, shake hands, meet the fans, and try to really ingrain this as a part of, we're not just here to play hockey, we're here to be a part of this. That's what's really, I think, made the difference. I think an OHL team could have showed up in Brantford and just said, okay, we're here, we're your team now. That's not the way that Michael Andlauer, from back to Steve Stais to Matt Turek, that's not the way this organization operates. If we're going to go in, we're going to go both feet. And whether it was a temporary home or a permanent home, we were going to make sure that Brantford knew we were here, and we were going to try to make a positive impact moving forward. And I'm really excited that it looks like we're going to get to do that for a long, long time to come.
And has there been any renderings yet of what this arena could look like down the road?
There have been some that City Council has put out. It's right in the same parking lot as the Civic Center, so it's kind of cool to see the two arenas side by side. I know that there's a expansion expected to come for the shopping center that's right across the street on Market Street. So seeing all those pieced together, it really gets you excited about what could happen in that area of downtown Brantford, and really makes it look something like you've never seen in terms of that downtown area. It's a totally different idea for the city of Brantford, and they're embracing it. We're embracing it. So I think it's going to look amazing when we get there. Now it's just, you're like that kid getting to Christmas morning, right? You're just waiting and waiting and waiting. But the old barn, the old Civic Center, the Madhouse, it's gonna treat us well until we get there.
And right now, the Bulldogs putting on quite the show. Nick Lardis, he's been a scoring machine this year. It's been fun to follow what he's been doing.
I mean, I knew Nick Lardis could score goals. We've seen that before, but what he's doing right now, right up there with the exceptional Michael Meeson leading the OHL in goal scoring, the Chicago Blackhawks have got to be laughing maniacally that they got him in the draft where they did. Anywhere he on the ice, and we've seen him do it so many different ways, whether it's the bottom of the circle in his spot that we know he loves on the power play, whether it's at the tops of the circles. He scored a wraparound goal against Kingston last week, streaming down the ice on a rush. He can score in so many different ways that he's giving defenses a lot of problems in how to cover him. And you had Cole Brown going net front with that big frame on the power play, taking up all kinds of space. That's created more room for Lardis to work with. And of course, the opposing team's going, great. He's got more room now. Nick Lardis he's gone to a different level with his game. He's gone from being the shooter that was dangerous in a couple of spots on the ice that you knew, like Brandon Sage in his office, and when he got the puck there, he was going to score. It feels like now he's dangerous anywhere from the center red line in pretty well with the puck on his stick.
And of course, Merrick Van Acker still not in the lineup as of yet. Sounds like he should be returning relatively soon, which is going to be a big plus for this Bulldogs offense, which coming into this year, a lot of people were figuring Brantford, Oshawa, maybe battling it out for that top spot in the division.
Well, he's actually going to return tonight in Oshawa, so you're going to see him tomorrow night in Barrie, and we're excited to have him back. I mean, you look at what the Bulldogs have already been able to do on the season, doing it without their point leader and goal leader from a season ago. Merrick Van Acker just adds a completely different element because he's not just a scoring threat. He's a great penalty killer as well. And that, I think, really hurt the Bulldogs early on in the season. Lawson Shirk graduated. Florian Jacki sure looks like he's graduated at this point. Merrick Van Acker, three pieces the Bulldogs relied on heavily on a penalty kill last year, not available. They've turned that back around now, and getting Van Acker back in is going to make a big difference. But he goes back with O'Brien and Lavoie, and then you've got Lardis, Thomas. Is it Brown? Is it Crombie? A lot of options on that other top line. And you've got the experience of Luca Testa, Josh Avery, now Aiden O'Donnell joining that crew, whether Crombie or Brown's in that group. So it's a deep offense. But to your point, Oshawa and Barrie talked about in the East, Oshawa and Brantford talked about at the beginning of the season in the East. I put Barrie in there right from the beginning. One, Marty Williamson. And when he sets his mind to, I want to compete, he's going to compete. And then you add some pieces like a Gabriel Eliasson, a Dallin Wakely, a Brad Gardner, which I thought was the underrated pickup of the offseason. I think people kind of forgot just how good and how deep this Barrie lineup is. There's no traditional fourth line for this Barrie crew. They just keep rolling guys over the boards. So I'm really excited to see how this season breaks down the stretch with those three teams battling back and forth at the top of the division. Brampton hasn't woken up yet. Got to think they're going to be a factor before it's all over. Niagara, as you guys know, in the Central Division, keeps hanging around. But I just, there's something about this Colts team that I think they're special. There's a special group there.
Well, this Eastern Conference is so fascinating because, yeah, like you said, we've got those four teams that we kind of figured would be challenging. Niagara's been the surprise, but then you also look at a team like Kingston. Where does this come from? You have Battaglia, he's firing on all cylinders, it seems, but this is just the great thing about junior hockey is it can be so unpredictable.
Well, nifty little pickups for them, too. Nolan Lalonde in goal, and you're thinking, well, they already got Vicari, but they've created a real nice 1-2 punch, like what the Bulldogs have done with Leenders and Igorov, like what Barrie has done with Rebick and Hillebrandt, and I think that has really driven their success. They get Emil Painiemi, who comes over from Finland, and Tuomas Juronen. They have been excellent additions as the import pair there. And Ottawa moving. I thought there was a law against Ottawa and Kingston doing business, but we
Right.
can get to that another time. Those two additions have been huge. And then Cedric Gandon. They lose Paul Ludwinski. They add Gandon into the lineup, and it completely changed what looked like where they might have to take a step back. Now you had a few pieces. Love Quentin Burns. I mean, the guy feels like he can play 40 minutes on the back end. Now you're looking at a team that, again, they've got 2, 3 lines that are dangerous. They've got a deep defense, deep goaltending, and they start to sound like a lot of these other teams that we're looking at around the Eastern Conference. And they're not going to be going anywhere because they're built really well. So it's another team to throw into that pot that the Eastern Conference, in terms of a playoff picture, home ice, it may not be as much of an advantage because it's really going to be a pick 'em.
Oh, it's going to be a battle. And then, of course, we saw Brantford make that move with Brampton with the goaltending, Ryerson Leanders coming over. But Igorov, he's been pretty good himself this year. So it's almost a good 1-2 punch in net right now for the Bulldogs.
David Egorov, unfortunately, got lost in the shuffle last year. Mateo Drobak carried the mail as the overage goaltender. David Egorov is an incredible talent. He reminds me so much of when the Bulldogs got Caden Fulcher, who backstopped the 2018 run. He arrived coming out of the U18 circuit in the Ottawa area and then Junior B, and he's this incredible athlete. There's no stop that he can't make, and he'll dart across the crease and do all these magnificent things. But it was almost like the goaltending coaches for the Bulldogs had to get him to calm down a little bit, get
Mm.
a little bit more positional. And you don't have to make the easy stop look spectacular. You just have to know when to make the spectacular stop. And I think that's been the biggest change for David Egorov. He looks like a goaltender playing in himself as opposed to just flying all over the net. That's when Caden Fulcher found the next gear. David Egorov has all the ability to do that. He was the highest goaltender the Bulldogs had ever drafted when they took him in the fifth round in 2022. And now you add Ryerson Leanders, two of the top goaltenders out of that draft class. Bulldogs don't just have them for this year, they've got them for next year. They're going to continue to grow as a pair together.
Well, it's going to be an exciting run this season, and it's great to always catch up with you, Reed. And I guess we'll see you tomorrow night.
I don't know if you'll see me. I may be doing it at a studio tomorrow, but I promise you I will be in Barrie before this year is over. I'm still struggling with a little bit of a cold going on, but we'll get through it. And I appreciate you as always having me. And you can probably tell I'm actually in the booth in Oshawa with the mood lighting that just hit.
I was just going to say, I like the mood lighting you've got there at the Tributes Community Center right now.
Jack Moore, I think. I got to find Jack. This has got to be his fault.
Oh, exactly. But anyways, thank you very much for doing this. We'll talk to you again soon.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So that's Brantford Bulldogs radio, TV, play-by-play voice, Reed Duthie. Always great to catch up with Reed, and it's so exciting just to see what's happening in the city of Brantford since coming over from Hamilton, and the team looking quite competitive out on the ice as Reed's getting ready to call the game Friday night at the time of recording against the Oshawa Generals, and then tomorrow we'll have the Brantford Bulldogs and Barrie. So it's going to be an exciting game. It's going to be quite the season just to see how the whole Eastern Conference plays out, as Reed and I were talking about there. So thank you very much for all your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Talk to you again soon.